On July 11, 1986, a mysterious aircraft crashed near Bakersfield, California. No one knew what it was, the Air Force offered no explanation, and the wreckage vanished, with the public left wondering what the hell just happened. The deceased pilot's father, surrounded by reporters, could only say that his son had been working on something so classified that he had to take a lie detector test every 3 months. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the Cold War, a rumor began to surface. Not in official reports, but in whispers, grainy magazine covers, and bizarrely, the aisles of toy stores, because someone had created a $10 plastic fighter jet model so alarmingly convincing that Congress started to demand answers. Lockheed began scrambling to do damage control, and the Soviets were quietly buying up the kits to study them, exactly like the plot of some 1980s comedy. It was a jet with no public debut, with no photos and no acknowledgement, and yet somehow everybody knew its name. The F19. Was this America's ultimate black project? Something so secret that even elected officials weren't allowed to know it existed? This is the story of a jet that blurred the line between fact, fiction, and Cold War paranoia. A fighter jet that earned the title of stealthiest aircraft ever built. Because it didn't even exist. In the mid-1980s, speculation was running wild in aviation circles. Rumors were everywhere that the US military was testing something new out in the desert. Not just another black budget prototype, it was something that could supposedly turn invisible to radar. The government denied everything, of course. Officials laughed it off, brushed it aside, and treated everybody who asked questions like tinfoil hat conspiracy nuts. Looking to capitalize on the growing mythology, the Test Store Corporation, famous for its hyper-accurate scale model kits, quietly released a new product, the F19 stealth fighter. It looked like a mashup of sci-fi elegance and Cold War paranoia, somewhere between the SR-71 and a Thunderbird vehicle. To the public, it was a fun fantasy, but to aviation geeks, it was dangerously plausible. So naturally, on one early summer's morning in May of 1986, a sharp-eyed reporter and model builder named Tim Gaffney spotted the F19 info sheet in an Ohio hobby store. He instantly realized what he was looking at, the first serious attempt at imagining the mysterious invisible aircraft. And because Test Store was known for its uncanny accuracy, he wondered whether this model was actually revealing something the Pentagon hadn't. He ran a front-page news story with a cheeky headline, "Stealth fighter is a secret, model is not." And it exploded. The Associated Press picked it up, and overnight, Test Store's little plastic jet became a national sensation. CBS Evening News even sent a camera crew to film the model, with newspapers across the world publishing photos. TV anchors asked Test Store for comment on this super secret fighter jet. For a company that had done almost zero marketing, it was like winning the lottery, but suddenly everybody was asking the same question. How did a toy company get so close to a secret that the Pentagon wouldn't even answer? It didn't just spook aviation nerds, it actually made its way to the halls of Congress. The idea that a $10 hobby kit might reveal state secrets raised alarm among congressmen, particularly Ron Wyden of Oregon. A month later, in June of 1986, he held up the F-19 model kit and demanded to know whether national security had been compromised, and was the US actually building an invisible jet? Just weeks earlier, Lockheed's chairman, Lawrence O. Kitchen, had admitted to the House subcommittee that the company had actually lost 1,460 classified documents related to its top-secret stealth aircraft program. So Wyden would grill the Lockheed executives. Why was Congress being kept in the dark about this secret aircraft when every kid in America could walk into a toy store and buy a model of it? And the evidence of a grand conspiracy in the press was building. A few years earlier, an internal Navy Marine Corps budget document had referred to an A-19 aircraft in a list of proposed attack planes. It wasn't related to stealth, and it never made it past blueprints, but newspapers noticed it and thought it might be a cover-up for the F-19 fighter jet. Because if there was an A19 nobody had heard about, then surely there had to be an F19 as well. And then came the smoking gun. The US military had quietly skipped the number 19 entirely. Under the tri-service designation system created in 1962, fighter jets were numbered sequentially, F-14, F-15, 16, 17, 18, etc., with only the number 13 intentionally avoided for obvious bad luck reasons. So when the next fighter to appear in 1982 wasn't the F-19, but the F-20 Tiger Shark instead, it looked like the Pentagon had deliberately jumped over the number. To the public, this wasn't an oversight, it was a breadcrumb, a clue. It was proof that the 19 had been set aside for something that the government didn't want to talk about. And like every new detail, this made people feel like the Pentagon was playing games with the truth. And then, almost on cue, one of those doesn't exist, don't ask about aircraft crashed in the desert. Hello, Nick from Found and Explained here. It can be hard to start a new fighter jet from scratch, especially one that's supposed to beat both the F-15, 16 and the F-18. Believe me, the Soviets certainly tried. You need every trick in the book, from unlimited black budgets to cutting-edge alien technology, and Odoo. You see, Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform. With their wide range of over 70 applications, it covers all your needs, such as a website builder, CRM, invoicing, inventory, projects, and much more. And since everything is on one platform, Odoo's apps are integrated and automated. You no longer have to hop between clunky, mismatched tools. Every app within Odoo is easy to use and works seamlessly together. In fact, managing CRM with Odoo is very simple. Odoo's CRM app allows you to add and manage your leads as they roll in. The Kanban view makes it extremely easy to view your entire pipeline and drag and drop your opportunities or leads onto the next stage as they progress. Within every opportunity, there is chatter, where your team can send it external emails and log internal notes without ever leaving Odoo. You can also edit contact details, add priority ratings, add an expected revenue, schedule future tasks, and so much more. And just so that you're aware, Odoo releases new and improved versions every year, which includes new app features, such as AI prediction for how successful a customer acquisition will be. And the AI assistant doesn't stop there. Odoo version 19, it can help write replies to customers right in the CRM and answer any questions you might have. And the best part is, access to all of Odoo's apps starts from just $34.40 AUD per user per month. If you're looking for one specific app, you can use one app for free for life with unlimited support. Check out Odoo today, link in the description. A month later, in July of 1986, a classified test jet crashed near Bakersfield. The Air Force wouldn't confirm what it was, and they refused to release details and locked down the entire area. Guards with M16 rifles ringed the site, and anything resembling wreckage was quickly removed by helicopter. Hey, future Nick here, did you know that they actually replaced the wreckage of the Have Blue prototype with a stored F-101A Voodoo jet, so they could tell the public that that plane actually crashed instead? They would go at so much lengths to try and cover this up. Later investigations revealed that the jet had departed from Groom Lake, Area 51, and the locals remembered seeing an odd, angular shape in the sky just before impact. Only years later did it become clear that the crash involved the program that would eventually produce the F-117, but at the time, the silence from the Air Force convinced the public that the mysterious F-19 had finally appeared and then immediately exploded. Adding to the intrigue, the pilot's father slipped to journalists that his deceased son had been working on something so classified that he needed to take a polygraph lie detector test every 3 months. And the media, desperate for visuals, actually took images of the tester F-19 box art and ran them in TV broadcasts and newspapers as a stand-in graphic for the spooky, secret stealth fighter that crashed. Thus, the legend of the F-19 only grew because if the government was this cagey, surely something big was hiding in that damn desert. And it wasn't just America that took notice. Behind the Iron Curtain, the Soviets were watching the F-19 chaos with a mix of alarm and curiosity. Declassified KGB intelligence reports showed that the analysts generally believed that the F-19 might be a real low observable tactical fighter. US secrecy only made it more plausible. After all, the Americans had hidden the SR-71 and U-2 for years, only revealing them in the decade before. All of this happening at the same time, the fantastic Testors model became a bestseller. So, just how fantastic was it? Some of the Testors F19 design choices were remarkably interesting. The model's sleek blended wings and long SR-71 style nose made it look like a UFO crossed with a skunkworks prototype. In other words, exactly what the average person imagined a stealth plane should be. But the unsettling part was how many of its features lined up with real stealth engineering. Take the air intakes. Testors put them on the upper fuselage and covered them with triangular grills to hide the engine fan blades from radar. That's a genuine stealth technique later seen with the B-2, modern drones, and even the newest Chinese fighters. The model also featured a flattened exhaust with extra vents on top to mix cool air with the hot engine plume, another real stealth consideration. Reducing infrared signatures is also critical, and this design eerily resembled how the actual F-117 cooled its exhaust using bypass air. Even the tail fins were canted inwards, almost identical to the early Have-Blue prototypes. That inward angle was specifically meant to scatter radar waves and reduce a jet's radar cross-section. Individually, any one of these choices would have been a lucky guess. Together, they were uncomfortably close. However, not all that glitters is stealth. The F-19 kit's airframe was smooth and curved, akin to a stylish Italian sports car, than the actual brutal low-poly shape of an actual stealth aircraft of the era. Unknown to outsiders, Lockheed's real stealth fighter achieved invisibility not with curves but with faceted panels mercilessly angled to deflect radar like a disco ball from hell. So what actually happened? Was this kit based on a real aircraft? Well, what made this whole situation even more bizarre was how the Testors designer, John Andrews, managed to get so close to a real stealth concept without ever actually seeing a classified aircraft. He combined basic radar physics with the rumoured SR-71 successor shape and filled in the blanks using pure logic. Andrews didn't know what the F-117 looked like, but he knew what stealth required, and that meant hiding fan blades, mixing exhaust, and avoiding vertical surfaces. His design wasn't accurate, but it was plausible enough that people thought he'd hit the target. Bottom line, it was a lucky guess. After the initial frenzy, rival model makers like Monogram and Revol eventually jumped on the Phantom fighter bandwagon. Each came up with its own artistic interpretation of the elusive jet, some with minor tweaks like moving the intakes or adding canards here and there. Monogram even labelled theirs the F-19A Spectre, implying a spooky presence and giving a jet a proper Halloween nickname. The world's imagination was on fire and everyone wanted to solve the riddle of what does a secret stealth fighter look like. And if the Pentagon wouldn't tell us, well, we all decided to make it up ourselves. For 2 more years, the F-19 enjoyed a wild ride as the world's most famous fighter that never was. It had become a cult icon to the point that most people just assumed it was real. Then, in November of 1988, the curtain finally dropped and the Department of Defense rolled out the actual stealth fighter in a public reveal. And it was designated the F-117 Nighthawk, not F-19, and it looked nothing like the elegant model kits on hobby shelves. Instead of sleek and sexy aerodynamics, it had all sharp angles and flat surfaces resembling a flying Dorito. And I can imagine that those involved with the real Have-Blue project probably had quite the chuckle seeing how far the hysteria behind the F-19 had gone. Officially, the F-19 designation remains unused to this day, and the reason behind it is more simple than you think. The Department of Defense skipped number 19 at Northrop's request so they could go on an even number and avoid confusion with Soviet designations. Northrop, having a hand in developing advanced aircraft, preferred even numbers to distinctly differentiate their projects from Soviet fighter designations, which commonly use odd numbers like the MiG-29 and Su-27. The mystery only deepened because the Air Force had a habit of using strange internal numbers for black programs. The real stealth fighter, the F-117, didn't follow any public numbering logic at all. It wasn't even part of the standard sequence. Interestingly, the next odd-numbered aircraft in either testing or service would be exclusively stealth jets, first being the YF-23 and then the F-35. So maybe Testors really was onto something. The model kit would become the best-selling of the era. with nearly 700,000 units sold of the F-19. To put this in perspective, it outsold the iconic P-51 Mustang kit 2-1, highlighting the significant cultural impact of the time. It even outsold Star Trek ships, claiming the model kit throne for years. The F-19 even made its way into mainstream entertainment far beyond model kits, with Tom Clancy's 1986 bestseller Red Storm Rising featuring the F-19A Ghost Rider rescuing NATO forces. Matchbox would release a die-cast F-19 toy that it sold in the tens of thousands, and when Microprose released their flight simulator Project Stealth Fighter, they actually had it as the F-19, but would actually update it to the F-117 Stealth Fighter, renaming it Stealth Fighter 2.0, as if the F-19 had simply evolved into the real thing. For a jet that never existed, it became one of the most famous aircraft of the entire decade. And funnily enough, even the military had their own bit of fun with the legend, with the 117th Intelligence Squadron of the Alabama Air National Guard somehow getting approval to use the fictional F-19 silhouette on their unit emblem, dubbing it the F-19A Spectre in homage to the myth. In the end, the only thing that was stealthier than a Nighthawk, turns out, was a fighter jet that existed only in our collective imagination. Thanks for watching my video today. Don't forget to check out Odoo. And if I disappear, you know that the government finally got onto me.